Change is possible. This podcast will show you how. Max, can you tell me about the most challenging time or experience you've had in your life?
Yeah. I've had, quite a lot of that, as everyone has. Everyone goes through tough times in their life. But one that sticks out to me, that I've kind of reflected on and really thought about, is when I went to America for the first time. It was one of those things where I was 18, quite young, immature, I would say, and went over there to college in America. So I was obviously pretty good at golf at the time. Got a scholarship to America, to the University of Louisville. Didn't really know what to expect. Didn't know anyone on the team. There was 3 Irish guys on the team. So that obviously helped, but I didn't know them personally at the time, and went over there. And it was just one of those things. It was a really unsettling time for me, because I'd never been outside of the country for a long period of time on my own, let alone not knowing anyone who I was with for the first couple of months. And I would say, I didn't want to think at the time that I was a little bit homesick, but I probably was. Yeah. And I found it difficult those first couple of months, just adapting. Getting you're put into an environment where it's extremely tense. It's full on
Competitive.
Extremely competitive. You've just got to perform, right? And I've never been in an environment that competitive and tense before. So being put into the deep end straight away was quite tough, and it took me a couple months to adapt. But I would say, looking back, that's one of the best things I could have actually done. Yeah. It would have been bad for me to stay at home in my comfort zone and not do something like that. It's probably made me a much, I wouldn't say better person, but stronger mentally.
More resilient.
Yeah, exactly. Being put into that sort of, frame of mind. So I would say, in terms of my career and golf, that's probably, where I've, it's the toughest battle that I've faced so far, but I definitely came through it.
And it's a fundamental belief of mine that the challenges of life forge who we are. We need the challenges. You learn very little from success. You learn from the challenges. What was your mindset like then? Self-yes, doubting yourself, because you were obviously moving to a whole new level, your ability as a golfer. Did those doubts creep in? Because I know self-belief is a massive thing. We'll get into that.
Yeah, I think everyone has self-doubt, no matter who you are. If you're the strongest mentally in the world, you still have shades of self-doubt, but it's about just it's about acknowledging it and just kind of dealing with it at the time, rather than let it build. If you keep letting it build, I think it just gets worse and worse. It's just about acknowledging it and taking care of it at that time. But I think at that time, when I did go to college, I didn't understand it the same way I do now. And it probably crept in more than I would have liked. And now I understand that, there's ways to deal with that. But I would say that self-doubt probably was a big part of that challenge, and getting through that, because it's a different level again in terms of, golf. I came from a boys level, which is, a pretty good standard in Ireland and Europe. But then you go over to the US and it's a whole different ball game over there. You're playing against the best amateurs in the world. And going over there, I didn't really perform at the start, and I would say self-doubt 100% crept into that, and why it was a challenging period in my life.
And tell me, how did you deal with the self-doubt? Or you say you have a different way to manage it now. What does that look like? Yeah,
I think it's just knowing what I've done in the past, just covering it up from what I've done well, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So completely covering it up with undeniable facts that, I'm able to be in this arena. I've competed here before. I can compete here again. Yeah. There's no doubt about that. And just really covering it up with facts that I am pretty good at the game. and not letting myself think that I'm bad at the game consistently.
Yeah.
Because all golfers go through periods of, all sports people, I would say, go through periods of, not good play, or, not playing to the ability that they want to play. But I think then it's a patience game.
Yeah.
It's complete patience, and not telling yourself you're someone that you aren't.
Yeah. For reference, Max, I just want to say to viewers, you're not pretty good at golf. You're an amateur turned professional who shot a 60 last week, and we'll get into the self-belief. I feel you're going to go to the top. Everything about you screams about that, of what I've experienced. So I just want to say that for people. Like, pretty good. You're humble as well, which I love, Max. But something you said there, which I love, you look at the undeniable facts. So you're building a wall of evidence. You're saying, right, well, I am good enough. I'm looking at the facts. And it says you don't often look back. You look forward in life, but you look back to look at those undeniable facts to fight that self-doubt and those creeping thoughts coming in. So is that the way you look at it, really?
Yeah. I'd say that's pretty much it. You're backing it up with a strong work ethic, right?
Yeah.
Work ethic is everything. If you work hard, you can truly just say to yourself, right, I've worked as hard as I can, and I kind of deserve whatever I want to get because I've done the work, I've put in the hours. And if you truly believe that and back it up with work ethic, you can kind of do what you want. I think.
Yeah, definitely. And it's this self-belief thing that I'm really fascinated by, because the first time we met, you convinced me, and you more than convinced me. You were so steadfast in your belief that you were going to the top, and it absolutely blew me away. And the reason why I was so fascinated, we sort of met around mind tricks, mind hacks. You're always looking for that 1% or that 0.1% to get to the next level. And what screamed at me was your self-belief. But there's something that I have found in my own life, not in sport, in a different arena, that there's a thin line between self-belief and self-delusion. Like, you nearly have to have a naivety about you that you're going to get to the top no matter what. Is that, like, where do you believe you're going to go first and foremost?
To become the best golfer in the world.
And that's you are firmly believe that that's going to happen.
100%.
Yeah. And where are you with self-doubt creeping in? Where are you with thinking, is that naive? Like, what gives you that belief?
Yeah, as I mentioned, it's a work ethic, and the only days or moments that self-doubt does come in is pretty much if I'm having an off day.
Yeah,
I say off day, I'm still doing things, but if you're laying down on the couch, or not doing something that's helping you become what you want to become, that's when the self-doubt comes in. It doesn't come in when you're in the gym, or it doesn't come in when you're practicing, or it doesn't come in when you're on the golf course. It doesn't come in when you're meditating, or doing breath work, or working with a psychologist, working with a trainer. It doesn't come in then. It comes in when you're laying off or slacking,
going backwards instead of forward. Yeah.
Exactly. And I think that's kind of what makes me work as hard as I do, is that the self-doubt doesn't come in when you are working.
Yeah, that's beautiful. And it's even as simple as, like, just going to the gym. I'm trying to bring it back for more lay people, I suppose. Like, if you're taking a couple of days off, like, I exercise a huge part of my life. And if I'm on holidays and let's say I come back and I haven't gotten into exercise for a few days, you feel like you're going backwards. But as soon as you get to the gym on that fourth session, you're elevating yourself, you're pushing forward, the momentum is back. So it's just staying in that track, that momentum track, really.
Yeah, absolutely. The gym is one of the best things you can do.
Yeah.
Even if you're not trying to, get somewhere, just for your mentality alone.
Yeah.
It's just amazing. And you can't beat a good hard gym session when you push yourself to the limit, no matter who you are. Like if you go for a 5K walk, or if you lift weights, whatever, it doesn't really matter. When you push yourself and get that sweat going, and you just feel amazing about yourself. And there's nothing better, I don't think, than that.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. It's one of those first principle things that if you want to feel better, put it into action. It changes how you feel. But talking about that, getting a sweat on and stuff like that, we've met properly 3 times, Max. We've met a few more times that, but we've interacted properly for 3 times. The first time we were talking about mindset tools in terms of what I might be able to bring to your game going forward and stuff like that. The second time was a game of squash, and
Yeah.
I felt your intensity. I am a competitive person, but
Yeah.
that was the most competitive. And we're both newbies to squash.
Yeah.
It was so competitive. It was unbelievable. And you beat me. You did beat me in the end.
Yeah.
It was a close game, but you beat me in the end. It was brilliant. But I felt the intensity of your competitiveness. And the third time we met, strangely enough, was with Emma Brennan, incredible friend of both of ours,
Yeah.
the boxer, Olympic boxer, and we were boxing each other in the gym. So I literally felt the punches of your competitiveness. And there's an intensity in every single thing you do. So you're talking about work ethic and you're talking about doing the right things to bring you on the right path. But is that just who you are? Is there an intensity with everything you do and that flows into golf, or has it gone the other way? Or
Yeah, I suppose I'm just a very, very competitive person. No matter what I do, I don't like to lose. And golf's one of those sports where you lose 90% of the time, 95% of the time,
Yeah.
even if you're the best in the world, you don't win. But you can find little wins in everything, and that's what I kind of like to do. Set little challenges. But if I'm playing basketball or I'm playing squash or if I'm playing a game of cards, I don't like to lose.
Yeah.
That's just who I am. I have that competitive fire in me.
I love that. And it really ties into that self-belief that you had. Because if you look at the GOATs of the world in sport, like you look at the Ronaldos, you look at the Michael Jordans, they have this fundamental belief and competitiveness. You look at the Roy Keane and all the top footballers, they want to win at absolutely everything. And I think of Ronaldo comes to mind for this for some reason, but it's like we talk about ego and stuff like that. Is it ego? But I think you nearly have to have this bulletproof belief to elevate yourself to the top. So do you think ego's a good thing, bad thing?
Yeah, it's one of those things. People look, a lot of people look down at ego. But at the same time, to be the best, you've got to have some sort of ego. If you want to become the best and you don't have some sort of ego, telling yourself that you want to become the best. If you don't believe that you're going to become the best, you're not going to become the best. That's just a fact.
Yeah.
Everyone that's become the best at what they do knows that they want to become the best well before they actually do it. And people that say they want to become the best can, be called, you're, egotistical or you've a big ego or whatever. But it's not really that. It's just a self-belief that most people don't have, I would say.
Yeah, and I think what comes from that is the actions follow that belief. Like, I don't like the word manifesting per se, but that's what it is. It's one way of describing it. You're manifesting greatness, let's say. But if you believe it, truly believe it,
Yeah.
and think it, then the actions will follow.
The law of attraction.
The law of attraction.
The secret of the universe.
Yeah,
100%.
it really is. So, like, what would the best golfer in the world, or let's say the best golfer in 5 years' time, what would he be doing today?
Yeah.
The actions that you're doing.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And really speaking it into existence.
Yeah.
It's kind of, it happens with so many sports people, and you've obviously got to put in the work to back it up. You can't just say it.
Yeah.
You've got to put in the work, put in the hours to back it up. But it does start off with saying that you want to become who you want to become.
Yeah. Mick Slane, a mutual friend of ours, great mentor and friend of both of ours, Max. It's funny, Mick used to say I was his number one as his pupils, let's say, in that way. And he says, Brian, you're going to be disappointed. I have a new kid on the block. Max is my new number one. But Mick actually said to me recently, we're having a chat about yourself, and he says, I've never known anyone to outwork me except for Max. His work ethic and his level of commitment is off the charts. But it was nearly to the level that you could probably be like, you're 23 now, Max?
Yeah, 23.
Am I right? 23 years of age. So what normal 23-year-olds would be doing would be going out partying, let's say, having a good time, whatever that is.
Yeah.
I wouldn't imagine you have time for that.
Yeah, I don't. I go out, not a whole lot.
Yeah.
But I certainly don't stay indoors the whole time. But when it's time to work, 99% of the time, that's, it's time to work, and nothing else will distract me from that. I'd pick my moments to, have a good time or whatever. Wouldn't be too frequent, but but my main focus in this world is just to become the best.
The best.
And most of the time, if not all the time, that doesn't involve going out, having a good time.
Yeah, and I think it's nice to hear that you actually do it the odd time, because I think that's optimal nearly. I don't think optimal is always on. Like, it's always on will have that barrier. And I suppose, like, saying no has become a friend for you. You've had to befriend saying no to people, because we were chatting beforehand, like I love golf myself, and saying I had to get out for a game of golf with Max, and it was nearly like me ego, especially I'm playing well at the moment, so show Max me swing. I'd say he'd be laughing at it if you actually seen it, to be honest. But it's nearly every age out there want to be playing a game of golf with you. And it's something that I've recognized in life, like, to get to the top, you're going to have to tell people, a lot of people, no. And I remember a phrase that really landed with me one time. Saying no is like trading popularity for respect.
Yeah.
And when I see you really funneling down and doing the right things and saying no to certain things, saying no to a lot of people wanting to go out and play a game of golf with you, it's probably not popular with people, but it demands respect, you know, that way. So it's that challenge you found.
Yeah, there's a way of going about it where you're not rude, but you're getting your point across, you know. I think I'm quite a nice guy. So if I were to say no to someone, then I wouldn't say it would, I'd lose respect from them.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you got to have your own back and where you're going, and you've kind of got to look at each situation and say, okay, is that going to help me, or is it going to deter me in a very busy, period of my life where I'm trying to become the best golfer in the world? Is the best thing to do to play around the golf with someone that's an average golfer?
Yeah.
And it's probably not.
No.
And I've got to ask myself that question, most of the time when I do get the question. And it's a very important thing, because who you surround yourself by is, who you're eventually going to be.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a question I get, quite a lot, and you've just got to be respectful, and but at the same time you got to have your own back, and that's the biggest thing for me, is knowing what works and what doesn't work.
It's a priorities thing as well, and I suppose like it's trading popularity for respect. So when someone says no to you, you respect them more, because you're like, they have their stuff together, and it's nearly like you have your priorities. You know what you want. You know what your priorities are. But would that sort of would that be a challenge then when you think of time for family, time for friends? Is that, or did they just know where you're at and where the mission you're on, I suppose?
Yeah. In the game that I play, I'm not home a lot, so I don't get time to see my friends as much as I'd want to. Don't get time to see my family as much as I'd want to. But that's what we signed up for. I knew that 10 years ago when I started pursuing this thing seriously. That's just the game we're in. But I don't have any regrets with what I chose. I wouldn't change it for the world. And obviously all these sacrifices will definitely pay off in the near future.
Yeah. I'm watching it. You are on a rich vein of form at the moment, like hitting a 60. I love watching the journey. I love watching the belief manifest itself in time, and it's incredible to see. It's incredible to see that work ethic paying dividends, because I think that's really, like, if you work hard. I remember thinking when I went to college, it says, right, I'm probably not as smart as half the people that are going to college. I struggled how to write, but I remember it says, I'm going to outwork them. I am going to outwork them. And without blowing my own trumpet, I ended up getting a scholarship by finishing top of the class. Like, I wasn't the smartest, I wasn't the best writer, but I outworked them, and that got you to the level then as well. So it's talent and hard work, I think, is the key, isn't it?
Absolutely. And I have the exact same, sort of story as you did in college, after, a couple of years. I'll go back to the story about college. I think it's, one of the biggest turning points in my career was college in America. And for the first 6 months, year or so, I was feeling this way, and I'd probably put it down to work ethic, not working as hard as I could have, but I wasn't really aware of it as much as I am now at the time. But after year and a half, I got this sudden click, and I can probably put it down to one moment. It was so in college we have a fall season and a spring season. And I in the fall of my second year in college, so my sophomore year, and we had just finished a tournament in North Carolina, in Wilmington, North Carolina, and I just come like 40th, right, way off the ball. I'm so far away. This is in the middle of October. I'm so far away from where I want to be. I have all these questions that I want to ask myself, and it really that's when I started questioning exactly what I was doing. because I probably was going out and partying too much, or all these distractions in America. When you go to college in America, there's so many different distractions that can take place, and you've kind of got to at some point you've got to question what's going on and what I actually want to do. Do I want to enjoy myself for these next 2.5 years, or do I want to become who I've said I want to become from day one? And that's when I started asking myself those questions, was following that last event in our fall season. And for those next 2 months, 3 months, I can just remember I didn't step one foot out of line. I got myself exactly where I wanted to be, mentally, physically, and technically with my golf. And following that period, so that was in October, in North Carolina. That January, I think I had 8 top 10s, 9 top 10s in a row. Got myself up to top 50 in the world amateur golf rankings, from 600 to top 50 in the world amateur golf rankings. Pretty big jump within 4 or 5 month period, and started to get on teams, and my career started to really lift off from that period. I was good, but I wasn't at the level where I wanted to be. And that period of time, that 2 month, 3 month stretch, really showed me that if you want to get to where you want to get to, no matter who you are, unless you have a work ethic, you're not going to make it. There's no chance.
Yeah, and I love hearing that, that way. And it's really like you gave yourself those undeniable facts to banish that self-doubt through that work ethic, like it paid dividends within that as well. I'd love that. It's something that reminds me, like how many Tiger Woods or Lionel Messi's have we lost to partying? Like there would have been many people with God-given talent, but didn't put the work ethic in, or the world pulled them off course. So like the talent is never enough. It's all about that work ethic as well. I'd love to talk about a story, because I was following your rise, and myself and Mickey always gives me a shout when when the big things are happening, Max. I'm dying to go over to watch you live soon at a big tournament. You have to give me a shout at that for
Irish
the next
Open
the Irish
year,
Open
potentially.
Oh, lovely.
Potentially,
Brilliant.
I'm hoping to get into that, so maybe you'll be down there.
100%. I'd love to go away and watch it live as well. I was supposed to be going to Lisbon to watch it, I think, in September,
Yes.
but we couldn't make that work. We'll still see what we can do. I might get over for a day or two. But Mick, I was following you on the internet when you were playing in Italy. Was it Italy where just before you became a professional, where it was a huge tournament?
That's right. That was in Spain.
In Spain.
It was Q School.
Q School. And can you tell us how big a deal that is and how that sort of played out?
Yeah. So DP World Tour Q School is what every professional or aspiring professional pretty much has to do to get onto the world stage, onto the Challenge Tour, the Hotel Planner Tour, or the DP World Tour. Everyone wants to be on the DP World Tour, and then from there you go to the PGA Tour. But in order to get onto these tours, pretty much the only way you can get onto them, unless you get invites into the tournaments, is to go through this Q School. Q School is it's a long process over several months. You have to go from stage 1 to stage 2 to stage 3, 3 different golf tournaments. The first stage is 4 rounds, second stage is 4 rounds, last stage is 6. And in the position that I was, I had to go through every single one of them. So we started off with stage 1 over in Denmark, and I got through that on the number, right on by one shot, skin of my teeth.
Yeah.
So then you get through that. That's a grind, and then you go to stage 2. Standard is obviously better. Players are better. Tighter cutoff. Played extremely well there. Got through that, and now we're into final stage, which is pretty much European Tour pros,
best of the best,
who haven't had a great season the week before, or sorry, the year before, and are trying to regain their status. So you're playing against the best of the best.
Household names, like in the world
Absolutely.
of golf. Yeah.
In the world of golf, you'd know players playing this tournament. And anyway, went into it. So I'm an amateur at the time. I hadn't had aspirations of turning pro. So I had finished college, was in a good career, or in a good position in my career, was probably 30th in the world amateur golf rankings. But I had no status. And the thing about professional golf is, if you don't have status, you're playing on mini tours, and grinding around mini tours isn't the nicest thing in the world.
It's a grind.
It's an absolute grind.
Yeah.
Yeah. And to get from there to the main tours is extremely hard. So I was saying to myself, right, I'll stay another year as amateur, elevate myself up to, the top 10 in the world. If I'm going to play the Q school as I did, and we'll see where we're at. And if I get some sort of status, then I will turn pro. Anyway, so we get to, stage 3. Very little expectations. I was happy being where I was. I was in a really good position because no matter what, I was going to be playing golf the next year. As an amateur, worst case scenario, I play a full amateur. I play a full amateur schedule the next year, and something probably will arise from that. So I was in quite a good area, mentally, going into that tournament, or at least I convinced myself that I was. Even though it would have been a lot tougher to go and do another year as amateur, not with status. So I go into final stage, feeling really confident about myself. 160 guys, and top 60 make the cut after 4 rounds. So if you make the cut after 4 rounds, you have status on the Hotel Planner Tour, which is the second tier tour, in Europe, down from the DP.
Yeah.
So anyway, I play well for 4 rounds, make the cut by 2. Was extremely happy because obviously, I've full status on a tour at this point, so most likely going to turn pro. And then the last 2 rounds were phenomenal. I was, at the time after 4 rounds, I was about 7 shots outside of the DP World Tour.
I was checking it on the
status.
hour.
So I wasn't actually thinking about it. I was just like, right, I have status here. Let's just have fun for the next 2 rounds.
Yeah.
And I go out and shoot 2 under in the 5th round. So again, I'm probably 5-6 shots outside of it. And again, have fun in the last round and make so many birdies. I just went out and, had the round of my life. I was so calm, so confident, and
in flow.
And by the end of it, after 15 or 16 holes, I actually didn't realize what I was because I was in that flow state.
Yeah.
When you get into that state and you're making birdie here, you're making a birdie there, you don't really know what you are.
Yeah.
And
there's no thinking.
Yeah, but there's no point in knowing what you are because you're in a great state, you're playing well, and I just let it go. But after 15 or 16 holes, I couldn't help myself think about like what I am, and all of a sudden I'm 1 shot off the DP World Tour card.
I was nervous checking on the internet in Ireland.
Yeah,
I can't even imagine what you were like.
Yeah. So I played the next couple of holes, and I finished 1 shot outside the main tour card. But in hindsight, I was happy the way it worked out because again, if I was to put myself right into the deep end and have a full DP World Tour card straight away, it's one of those jumps from amateur golf straight into the DP World Tour golf is a big jump.
Yeah.
And it would have, it would have knocked me down quite a lot. Not that I wouldn't have been able to handle it, but the fact that I got a full Challenge Tour card, Hotel Planner Tour card for this year, I think it's some sort of blessing in disguise, even though, people would say, oh, unlucky you missed out by a shot or whatever, but potentially a blessing in disguise. I get a full year as a professional, my first year as a professional on a lower ranked tour where I can gain valuable experience and, really get used to the life and what it demands. And, I'm playing well this year on the Hotel Planner Tour. I'm 23rd in the rankings, roughly 21, 22 people get a full DP World Tour card. So, right where I am now in my career, I'm exactly kind of where I want to be in terms of, getting to the top and going through the process in order to get there.
Yeah, I love the journey, Max, so much, and I'm fascinated because I do like he says golf is 95% about losing even when you're top of your game. So we do want to get into setbacks and how you deal with those challenges. But before we get into that, like you mentioned that word flow, and like is that the optimal state to be in? Like wherever you are in life, being in flow, being at ease, having that lightness, it's just a wonderful place to be. What do you do? What could help other people that you do to get into that state of flow, to feel so good about yourself where you can perform for golf for you, but it might be different for other people?
Yeah, I put it down to 2 things, and it's consistency and a work ethic. If you work extremely, hard off the golf course, do everything that you're supposed to do, as we mentioned earlier, but then you couple that with a consistency in tournament week where you're doing, the same thing over and over and over again, and that results and the flow state comes from those consistencies, then I think those are the two biggest things you can do, as a professional sports person, to get into that, what they call a flow state. And for me, that's exactly kind of how I get into it. You don't try and get into it. If you try and get into it, you're never going to get into it.
Yeah.
You have to let it happen. And that happens for me, from those two things: consistency and a work ethic.
And what would those consistency look like with meditation, with breath work? Is there any specifics that you do, or is it more automation in terms of get your food at the same time, go out and practice at the same time? Is it, because I remember Michael Phelps done a lot of that as well, like even turned his head a certain way before he get into the pool. Like it was crazy automaticity where he was just in that zone.
Yeah, the one person that I would, that's very, very clear and who does it is Rafael Nadal. You see him on the court, and it's the exact same thing. Whatever he does, if it's his routine just before he serves, or if it's where the bottles are placed beside his chair, or where his racket is, or whatever, it's that sort of, really, really specific and borderline, just like crazy OCD routine.
Yeah.
I think that's, where you get into that state, and that's sort of where I'm at. And it doesn't really matter what you do. If you are, whatever your morning routine is, but if you do a morning routine one morning that doesn't match the other morning, you can't then expect yourself to get into that same sort of frame of mind, because what you're doing is totally different. So I think it doesn't really matter so much on what you do. It's more the consistency that you do it at, and no matter what, there's always levels to consistency that you can have. And I think when you get to a point where you're at a level and it's the exact same thing every single time, you're going to have your best chance of getting into the flow state.
Yeah, I love that. And it really brings it back to just my own life. And I'm thinking of people watching or listening to this as well. Like, that's why ritual is so important. That's why habits are so important. And I used to say to people, if I had 3 words of advice for anyone, it's consistency, consistency, consistency.
Yes.
And most people think it's boring, but consistency is just so powerful in many ways. Like it just allows a space. And I think one of the things, like if you're getting up and you're not consistent, you have to choose, you have to think what you're going to do, what's going to happen. So all of that pattern detection, all of that thinking processing has gone down. There's less energy being exerted. You know what you're going to do. Like not from the Steve Jobs school, like I sort of know what clothes I'm going to wear when I do talks. I get up, I have my morning routine, I go to the gym. Sometimes I do change it up, like it depends on the day, like it depends on the person. Some people have kids. But I suppose bringing it back to as much consistency as you can bring without it becoming a pain point in your life, that would really be the advice for people.
100%. Yeah. Like, and you need to find your own level of consistency.
Yeah.
My level, my consistency is different to someone. Sorry, it's my routine would be different to someone else's routine. But, it doesn't really matter what your routine looks like. Once it's consistent, you're going to succeed.
Imagine having a sponsor whose only interest is creating positive ripples of change around the world. I first met Jacqueline and David Coyne from the Coyne Foundation when they introduced me to Dr. Gabor Mate in 2024, an incredible pinch myself moment in my own life. Over the next few episodes, we'll be sharing weekly challenges inspired by their work and ethos. Small actions create big ripples. This week's ask is very practical. Teach someone a skill that you have that they don't have. How to bake a cake, how to change a tire on your car, how to plant a flower, how to make a good coffee, go for the 2-kilometer run. Whatever it is, pass it on. Is there any like, I know how competitive you are and a belief on getting to the top, and my mind just went, what's Max leaving out that he doesn't want to give away, that he's keeping for himself? Is there anything you're keeping to yourself you don't even know? Is there
No, I don't think so.
No,
No,
no, no,
no.
no. That's
I'm an open book.
open book. The thought popped into my head. There's something I'd love to ask, and it's a couple of things, and it will really relate to people in real life as well. Like people have challenges with parenting, bringing kids up can be just mental in itself. Work challenges, financial challenges, and what happens? We get stressed, we get anxious, things happen. What do you do? Because you put so much time into this. You have a psychologist on your team. You have different people helping you to become optimal. But golf is a game of setbacks. What do you do mentally dealing with bad holes, bad shots, missed cuts with those challenges? How do you deal with that? What's the process?
Yeah, I've thought about this, and in the past, I haven't, I haven't dealt with this correctly. But I think I'm dealing with it a lot better now that I'm a little bit more mature. But the one thing that I do, if I have a bad round, bad hole, it's going to happen, right?
Yeah.
That sort of thing will happen.
Like life.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. But the one thing that I do is I try and think back to a moment 2 or 3 years ago where the exact same thing happened. And you think back to that moment now and you say to yourself, right, was that really as, because in the moment when something bad does happen, you think it's the end of the world.
Yeah.
On the golf course, you think it's the absolute end of the world. You think, it can't get any better from here. Like, what am I doing? You just feel terrible about yourself. But, if you take a moment and think about an experience that happened 2 or 3 years ago, a very, very similar experience, you're just like, right now, that really doesn't matter. And it's not as big as I thought it was back then. And it doesn't have as much, it didn't have any impact at all on how I played the next 2 or 3 years.
Yeah.
It's just a setback. That's going to happen to every single athlete that ever exists. Everyone has setbacks. So thinking in that sort of way back to a period of time in which it's happened before, and knowing that it had no implications on what what I've become is a nice kind of frame of mind to have when something bad does happen.
Yeah, it makes me think of that concept of cosmic irrelevance. Like if something really bad happens, and from an evolutionary perspective, our brains make this this is really, really important right now, just in case we need to survive whatever happened. So our ego gets caught up in that. But if you think of like cosmic irrelevance, like how important will this be next week? How important was a similar event that happened last year, as you said? How important is this in the grand scheme of my family, society, the
Yeah.
world? We're floating on this big ball in the
Absolutely.
universe. How important is this little? And it's not belittling what's happening with you, but it sort of brings it, right? It's not that big a deal in the grand scheme of things.
No.
It gives you that lens that's a little bit different.
Absolutely. And at the I think it's gratitude, right?
Yeah.
It's
yeah.
gratitude. It's knowing, that missing a putt or hitting a shot out of bounds or missing a cut in a golf tournament doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
That's going to happen. You're going to have bad days. You're going to, do this, that, and the other. But kind of brings it back to trusting your work ethic and trusting your routines. And if you truly do that, like I know that I'm like no one in golf history has not missed a cut, right?
Yeah.
I know I'm going to have a bad week again, right? That's just a fact.
Yeah.
Because it's going to happen to everyone. Not that I wish it on myself, but knowing that it's going to happen kind of frees you up to control what you can control. Because I can't control that I'm going to have a bad week. That's just going to happen.
Yeah.
So it's kind of controlling the controllables in your brain and really just enjoying the process and the experience of, working hard and doing what you're doing. Like, I love what I do. And as part of that, I know that there's going to be bad times and there's certainly going to be good times.
Yeah. It's interesting you use the word gratitude. I find it quite interesting. And for me, I might have a different perspective. Where does the gratitude piece come into that for you when we're talking about?
Yeah, just being thankful. For me, it's just being thankful for where I am in life. What I've achieved, to the people that I have around me. I think that's the biggest thing. Who you surround yourself with. Surrounded by a lot of really, really good people. And, I'm extremely grateful for that. And I think that's gratitude for me, is that being surrounded by amazing people.
Yeah, I think so, Max, and I hope I would imagine it comes through on the podcast as well. When I met you, like within split second, you're instantly likable. There's something about that, and Mick has said that before as well. And I think people want to help and lift other people. I think in Ireland, you say don't get notions. Sometimes there's
Yeah.
a bit of a language around that. But in general, people want to help other people as well. And if I have that likability factor as well, you'll have people cheering in your corner and people wishing you well and wanting you to do well, you know?
Yeah, well, I think if you're a good person and you mean well, good things have to happen to you.
Yeah.
It's just that's
Law of
just
attraction.
law of attraction.
Back to that.
100%.
Yeah.
100%. That's the secret that not a lot of people understand, I don't think.
Yeah.
And it's still, you know, but I do think that's a big thing. If you're a good person, you mean well, good things have to happen to you. And the opposite is true too.
Yeah, I found that quite interesting because I feel I'm highly equipped to deal with negative comments. And I think I've built sort of what I'd like to describe as a bulletproof mindset. Like, obviously, I'm not impervious to everything, but I have a really good mindset. And I always was like, if challenging comments come my way, because I see people sort of getting stuff on social media and they really get challenged and frustrated by it. And when I done the documentary, I was like, right, I'm definitely going to get some bad commentary there. But I didn't. But I nearly wanted it because I wanted to see how I would deal with it. I wanted to challenge myself, you know. But
Sorry, I'll just go back to
Yeah.
that. Do you know what's great about that?
no.
Is that you expected it to come.
Yeah.
So you weren't. So if it did come, so be it. You knew it
Prepared.
was going to come. You were prepared that it came.
Yeah.
I think the worst thing that you can do in an environment or in a situation like that is be, unexpectedly, had bad comments thrown at you or whatever. Because then you're like, oh, and then you have to think about it, right? But if you're prepared for things to come, it's not going to be a surprise when they do come. And if they don't come, it's a win-win sort of scenario.
Yeah.
And that's amazing. And there's certain scenarios in life where, if when you expect something bad to come, very rarely, if it does come, you're expecting it to come, right?
Yeah.
But most of the time, it actually won't come. And it's one of those things I've learned that in the golf course. I expect anything, and in life, I expect anything to happen.
Yeah.
And when it comes, I know, okay, that's gonna, that happened. I knew that was gonna happen, and now I know how to deal with that. And it's a similar sort of thing that you just mentioned there.
It really is. It's fascinating because, and what I'd be talking about would have been the documentary. It would have been a documentary of me being a drug addict for a long time, even selling drugs to fund the addiction. So I thought a lot of naysaying would come from that.
Yeah.
But I think I'm so open to owning that. And then I was prepared for the expectation. I think because I think in a way I've sort of, I feel good about everything that's happened and how it's gone down, and I've done the best I can in that kind of scenario. So, yeah,
Yeah,
it's an
absolutely.
interesting one.
It's a great one.
Yeah, I want to bring it back to just techniques that you use, Max, because I just think when you are an elite sports person, elite golfer like yourself, you need to really drill down to get the best of the best, and I just think that can really generalize to other areas of life. So, obviously, staying present under pressure is key. Like, if you have a shot, which I'm sure you will, to win a major at some stage in your career, you want to be present. You want to relax the body, relax the muscles at the end of the day. What do you do, or what are you doing to prepare yourself for when that day comes?
Yeah, I do quite a lot of things. One of the things that I've recently done that I've found quite powerful is breath work. Right, so there's meditating, which I've done for the last couple of years, and that's great. But there's also breath work. The two are different. People think that they're a similar sort of thing. They're not. They're totally different.
Yeah.
So
They overlap in a way, but
Yes,
very different. Yeah.
but very different,
Yeah.
and you get different results from them.
Yeah.
So it was actually Mick Slane who mentioned to me a couple of years ago about Neil O'Murku.
Yeah. Neil's a good pal. We had a podcast together.
Did you?
Yeah.
There you
yeah.
go.
Yeah.
So Mick mentioned to me about Neil. I've never met Neil, but he mentioned to me about him and said, listen, you should, really look into this guy and see what he's about. So I did. I had a look at him a couple of months back. This is, Q School last November, October time. And he has a 10-day free trial. And so I started doing this, and I found it absolutely amazing. It's one of the most powerful things I've done. And I've consistently done, I keep doing the trial. I probably need to buy the full package.
Yeah,
taking
yeah.
advantage of the trial at this stage. But I've kept, repeating the trial, and it's amazing. how powerful it is. And, that's one thing that I do before every single round of golf. It's part of my morning routine, is doing this breath work along with the meditation. And it's, one of the most powerful things I've done. And the thing that's so powerful about it is I can bring that onto the golf course.
Yeah.
So what that does is make everything extremely consistent about how you feel, and, what your body is feeling, what your heart rate is like, all of this sort of thing. And I get that right in the morning of a golf tournament. But I understand that on the golf course, I'm going to have so many different emotions, feelings. My heartbeat's going to be up, it's going to be down. It's going to be all around. And but having this, breath work and technique nailed down to the ground, I know that I can get back into that that solid state whenever I want on the golf course. And I used it a couple of weeks ago, and I was in contention in France, in Planoff, and in the final rounds, loads of people watching you. You have a chance to win a golf tournament. Your emotions are all over the place. It's an emotional roller coaster. But having that sort of solid routine and using the breath work to get back to that solid state, that neutral state, really benefited me. And I think that's one of the biggest things that I've done the last couple of months is bringing breath work onto the golf course.
Yeah.
Not only onto the golf course, before the golf course and onto the golf course, so that I try and maintain a neutral state throughout the golf round, no matter if I'm up or down or how I'm feeling. My body is feeling as consistent as possible.
Do you know what I love about you, Max? It's back to that work ethic and that determination, because I was wondering if you'd done mindfulness or breath work. And I always think either or, but you do mindfulness and breath work. So you bring it all together and multiply that level. I just want to give a shout out to Neil O'Murray. So his website, The Blissful Breath. I done Neil's teacher breathwork course as well, which is phenomenal. So Neil is a legend in terms of that. But it's phenomenal in terms of that, bringing your biology back to baseline, because that is the goal at the end of the day. And there's something I'd love to do with you sometime, Max, as well. Have you ever heard of biofeedback?
No.
So biofeedback's really interesting. So I wear the Whoop, and it's like a Fitbit, can give you that biofeedback. So basically I could look at your heart rate being monitored, and you could sort of do breathing techniques, and you can see your heart rate going down. So that's sort of, you're getting feedback biologically from what you were actually doing. Yeah. But there's another thing that you can do these days as well, and it's something I do want to do with a golfer. So we'll definitely have a chat about this another time, but it's called neural feedback. So you have your heart rate going, but if your brain is active, basically there's electrical activity within the neurons within your brain. Like you can have beta waves, theta waves, alpha waves, different kind of brain activity. And if you want to be relaxed and calm, you want to be in the theta state, the theta and the alpha kind of brainwave state. But we can actually measure this stuff. We put caps on people's head and we measure all this information. But what you can actually do, you can do neural feedback and you can gamify this stuff. So you could basically say, keep the board in the air. So if I say, right, do the breathwork technique, and the more level, neutral the brainwave state goes, the board flies up into the air. So when you see the board coming down, your brain activity's going up, so you need to get calm again. Yeah. So it's nearly you're getting that feedback there. And I often thought you could get something with a golf shot, the ball's in the hole, the ball's popping out of the hole, or something like that to give you that neural feedback. So we definitely have to do that 100%. Sometime. Yeah. It'll
be very interesting to see if I can... If what I'm saying about breathwork is actually true, because I believe that it's true, but unless you have facts and you have tests done, you don't really know if it's true or not.
Yeah, placebo strong. I don't want to ruin what you have with your belief either.
Absolutely.
But undeniable facts, isn't it? Back to the undeniable facts. We'll definitely do that.
100%.
We'll definitely do that. Linked to that as well, I think something that I find quite important in my life is visualization techniques. Is that something, I know with golf, that is absolutely key for many people. Is that something that you do, like visualize and mental videos of what way it's going to go?
Yeah. It's something that I've done. I work with my psychologist, Sean McGonigal, and it's actually something we're doing a lot more at the moment. Right. So, it's very easy in golf to get into a bad frame of mind in terms of what you're, if you miss a cut, it's all about, okay, why did I play badly? What do I need to improve on? But actually, we've kind of taken that and completely done the opposite. So Sean myself and Sean right now are working on okay, after every single round of golf, no matter how well or badly you play, you've hit a good golf shot out there somewhere, right? And you've hit a couple of good golf shots. That's just a fact, right? So instead of thinking about all the things that you've done badly, why don't you take 5 minutes out of your day after a round of golf and just think about those good golf shots that you hit today, and what you felt in the routine before those golf shots, and what you visualized in those golf shots, and why those golf shots were the way they were, instead of thinking, okay, I need to improve my chipping because I only hit that to 10 feet, or I need to improve my 6-footers because I missed that one. We've kind of, again, I think it comes back to the law of attraction. I'm never too far away from playing the best golf that I've ever played before. I know that, right?
Mm.
And I think that the reason why I got into one of those states is because I'm only focused on good golf shots and not bad ones. And, myself and Sean are working right now about that visualization of just good golf shots. Obviously, there's time to work on bad golf shots. There's a time and place for that. But when I'm on a consistent streak of golf for 6-7 weeks in a row, I don't want to be thinking about bad golf shots and what I need to work on, because more than likely, if you put fuel to the fire on those bad golf shots, you can improve, but might keep, being bad. And there's a time and place to work on them when you have a week or two off here or there. But when you're on a consistent run of golf where you are trying to perform at your highest level, you want to be thinking about nothing else but good golf shots. And I think visualizing good golf shots, for 5 minutes after my rounds for the last couple of weeks has been a big improvement on my overall golf.
Mm. Yeah, it's really interesting, and when you talk about that work, are you visualizing the actual shots? Are you visualizing the swing? Are you creating mental videos? Or is it more
No, it's actually,
verbal?
I am getting myself back into the feeling about how I felt in the seconds going up to them golf shots. Because
Right.
the 2 or 3 seconds you spend just before you hit a golf shot is arguably the most important couple seconds on a golf course. Because what you feel and think couple seconds before that golf shot usually dictates on what how the golf shot comes out. If I have a golf shot from 140 yards and I'm hitting a 9-iron and there's water right, and I want to hit it left of the pin because I know that there's water right. If I'm doing nothing else but thinking about that water, most likely it's going to go in the water.
Yeah.
But if I don't have the mental fortitude and the mental strength to be able to blank everything else out except for the left side of that green that I want to hit it to, I'm probably going to hit it to the left side of the green if I think that I'm going to hit it and I know that I'm going to hit it to the left side of the green. And that's kind of what I'm working on is the 3 or 4 seconds before the golf shot that I'm about to hit.
Yeah, and I suppose, and you hear this with a lot of amateur golfers as well, like it's the overthinking, it's the multiple techniques and stuff like that. And I find I'm playing my best golf when I'm just not thinking. So it's there's a real balance with techniques, with all of the things that you have to do, which involve thought processes as well, and then letting everything go to get into that flow state. So is this where the automaticity comes in, that you're just practice, 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 practice. So then all of the thinking you can let go when you bring it all together for the game day.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
it's all part of it, right?
Yeah.
It's a, if you want to make something good, and consistently good, you've got to practice it over and over and over again. And not only that, you've got to think that you're going to hit good golf shots. If you don't think you're going to hit good golf shots and you're not confident in your ability, you're probably not going to hit too many good golf shots.
Yeah.
So, practicing, convincing your mind of the 2 or 3 seconds before a golf shot that you're going to hit a good golf shot is very, it's arguably as important as actually the golf shot itself and hitting the golf shot. Right. Obviously, at my level, I'm talking about for your average golfer, it may be a lot more to do with technique and, whatever.
Are just going out to enjoy ourselves
yeah.
and not trying to relax? We're going out and leaving it more frustrated.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So I'm talking about the level of a high perform golfer. I think it's extremely important to get your mindset in the right state, because if you go out to a professional golf tournament, bar your Tiger Woods or your Rory McIlroy, Most of the guys hit it the same. Most of the guys have the same fundamentals. Most of the guys drive at a similar distance. They all hit it pretty straight. But what you don't see is what's in their mind. And I think, it's kind of an untouched subject. It's becoming more prevalent now as people see the importance of it. But I think that it's an extremely, if not the most important factor to who wins a golf tournament on a certain week and who competes well on a certain week is what is behind the brain and what you can't see.
Yeah, and it really wraps up everything that we've been talking about. Like, I love that quote, if you think you can or you think you can't, you're right. And the fundamental biggest predictor of you going to the top will be that belief system that you have. There's two other things I'd love to finish with, Max. Overarchingly, right, change is possible. That's what I try to show people. There's always hope. There's always an ability to change. And when I look at your trajectory, it's a very steady, calm, driven trajectory. But what do you think the secret is for change through your learnings of that incremental change and going to the very top? What do you think the what tips would you give to anyone else that tries to change their belief systems, their mindset, their lives, let's say for the average person?
Yeah, I think first of all, you have to be borderline delusional, right? If you want to make change, you've got to tell yourself that you want to change, right? You can't, you're not just going to click your fingers and all of a sudden you're changing. You've got to tell yourself that you are who you want to be consistently on a regular basis, like every hour. You've got to tell yourself what you want to be, and eventually you're going to get there. Okay, it's not going to take. It might not take a day, might not take a month, it might take several years to actually come into fruition, but eventually it'll happen. If you tell yourself enough that it'll happen, even though at the start it might seem so ridiculous, and you might think it's ridiculous. You've got to start off somewhere, and that's how I'd firstly start off. And then you've got to come up with a plan on how you want to change. I think most people in life that get stuck don't have a plan, and they're not, they're stuck in their own thoughts and they don't know what to do, and most likely they don't have a plan on what they want to do. They don't have a written out step by step on how they want to get there and how they are going to get there. And usually it's a lot easier than you think when it's written down on paper.
Yeah.
But if you have in your head that you want to get from A to Z, and you don't have a plan, it seems like you're going to climb Everest. But if you have that plan from A to B to C to D, and you have it written out step by step, it's usually a lot easier than people actually think. Well, most people don't have that plan. So I'd put it down to those two things: is telling yourself that you're going to get to where you want to get to, even though it might seem delusional at the start, and then having a plan and a process that gets you from one step to the other.
I love the simplicity of that. And the one challenge I think people find is staying the course. So it's staying consistent over time, because change doesn't happen quick. And I think you can deliver that within the plan. So I love the simplicity of that. Get a plan, believe it, have faith in that. Like nearly you need to be delusional. Like that's an element of that. That's something that I've learned. But I think what I'd add to that as well, and it taps into the last question that I want to ask you, is ask people for help. People are more willing to give help than what you'd believe. Like they really are.
Absolutely. And most people are nearly afraid to ask for help. But that's what we're all here for, is to help each other.
To help each other.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you don't ask, you don't get.
You don't get.
And worst case scenario, someone tells you no.
That's okay. I remember hearing that of Amy Huberman one time. I asked her for an interview and she gave it to me and says, "Oh God, I wasn't going to ask." And she says, "Sure, if you don't ask, the answer is always no." And I had that realization. Oh, so I was already rejected before I asked you. It was only when I asked you, I gave myself a chance of getting a yes. So you don't get rejected
Amazing.
when someone says no. You're pre-rejected until you actually ask.
I love that.
That was mind-blowing to me. So I just ask everybody everything now.
Absolutely.
I'm never getting rejected.
Exactly.
The last thing I'd like to ask, Matt, in terms of advice, what is the best advice you have gotten off somebody on your path?
Never quit.
Never quit. Never give up. I love that.
No matter what.
No matter what.
Yeah.
I love that. It really wraps it all together.
Yeah.
What's next for you, man? Next.
Heading off to Prague on Monday.
Right.
So I've done the last 7 of 8 weeks, which was tiring. You know, my body's tired. Need a good week off.
Yeah.
But it was a good stretch of golf. You know, I'm kind of in a very good position. And a busy period from, you know, now to the end of the year. A lot of exciting weeks coming up. Couple of events at home. So really looking forward to it, you know, and just enjoying the journey.
Oh, love it. You'll have to come back when you win that major, Max. I'll get you to sign a contract.
Absolutely.
I'll hold you to that. But I'm dying to watch the rest of the journey. It's been an absolute privilege. I wanted to get into your brain today, Max, to see what ticks underneath that makes you so competitive and driven. And that belief is just, it's a breath of fresh air. It really, really is. So thanks so much.
Thanks for having me on. Appreciate it.
Loved it. Thank you for listening to today's podcast. If you enjoy this content, I've created a range of online courses around mindset, mastering your self-talk, unlocking the secrets of addiction recovery and morning routines, and many, many more. If you're interested, simply click on the link in the show notes and use the word resilience to get free access to all of that content.